Graduation day is a memorable day for everyone, but I couldn't experience that milestone in my life with joy. I was graduating from medical school. Years of exhausting nights, constant studying, endless clinical rotations, exams, and no one was there for me that day. When the words, "Linda Hale, graduate in medical psychology," echoed through the microphone, I instinctively looked toward the front rows. There wasn't even a shadow in the seats reserved for my family. In that moment, I pressed my diploma to my chest and forced myself to smile for the photo. Around me, people were celebrating, laughing, crying as they clutched bouquets of flowers, while I stood alone beside a stranger's family, wishing the minutes and seconds would pass faster. Realizing I couldn't stay like that for long, I stepped outside and pretended to be busy by looking at my phone. That's when James, my classmate, spotted me and shouted with joy, "Congratulations, Linda, you did it!" His parents took a photo of the two of us, their smiles wide and full of pride. Then James glanced at the crowd and asked, "Where's your family? Are they running late?" Yes, I had to lie. And I did. Because I had grown used to situations like this over the years. After saying goodbye, I got into my old model Toyota Corolla parked nearby and sat there, quietly watching the world around me. If you'd like to hear the rest of the story, I'd truly appreciate it if you liked the video and subscribe to my channel. Now, let's continue. Honestly, I shouldn't have been surprised that my parents didn't come to this ceremony. They hadn't even shown up to my faculty graduation. Back then, my mother said Clara had exams, and my father didn't even call. Always excuses. Always more important priorities. And I remained the little girl who spent years doing everything she could to earn their love. I spent my teenage years trying to earn love as if it were a reward. I sent the money I earned to my family, immediately agreed to every request they made. By the time I was 16, I was up before dawn, wearing a McDonald's uniform, serving customers with a smile. My mother would frequently text, "We need money for Clara's dance lessons," or "Send a little extra for her school trip." And every time I would bow my head and comply. The first time she said, "You are our pride," I believed her words. I thought love was expressed through gratitude. Now I realize those words were actually a duty, a set of expectations. When I was accepted into my master's program, I promised myself, this degree will change my life. If I succeeded, maybe they would see me not as a backup plan, not as a source of income, but as a true member of the family. Back then, I didn't know that even success could be used to satisfy another demand. Only a few days had passed since the ceremony when I received yet another message from my mother. "We need $2,100 for Clara's 16th birthday." She didn't write congratulations. She didn't ask how my graduation went. She simply stated the exact amount of money needed for her birthday, the same demands, the same expectation. I stared at the screen for a long, long time. Something inside me shifted. Small, exhausted, I kept staring at my phone until finally it locked itself. $2,100. It wasn't just a request, it was literally a command. And as always, they expected me to provide it. I opened my banking app. My electronic wallet held about $3,000. I made a firm decision. Instead of sending the full amount, I sent only $1, wrote "Congrats" in the note, and pressed send. I stared at the screen for a moment, and once I saw "sent," I went to the drawer by the front door, took the spare key my mother kept for emergencies, and threw it in the trash. That same night, I called a locksmith and changed the lock. There was no other way to set boundaries with them. The next morning, I woke up early. Sipping freshly brewed coffee, I started to reflect. Yes, it was the first time this calm didn't scare me. No one could enter without permission. No one could demand anything from me. Then suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Someone was pounding hard. I knew it wasn't my landlord. Mrs. Maria would have given notice before visiting. Peering through my glasses into the hallway, I saw two police officers. Westfield Police, A calm, professional voice said, "Miss Hale." I opened the door, my heart racing. A tall, dark-skinned officer in his 30s showed his badge. "Your mother called. She says you're acting erratically. You changed your door lock, aren't answering calls, and she's worried you might harm yourself." I wanted to laugh, not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. The officer's expression softened. "We just need to check on your situation. Are you okay with us coming in?" I let them inside. The apartment was orderly. A coffee cup on the table, my work open on the laptop, my framed diploma on the wall. I gestured around. "Do I look unstable to you?" The officer's lips twitched slightly, as if trying to smile. "Not at all, ma'am," he said calmly. Then he asked a few questions about work and family. I answered honestly. I had completed my master's degree, would soon start working in my specialty, had no health issues. I was simply protecting my boundaries. He nodded. "We'll note the report as no concern. But if your mother calls again, you can refer to this check." As they were about to leave, the officer added one final sentence. "When a person starts protecting themselves, some people get unsettled. More than you think." Once the door closed, I leaned against it. My body shook, not from fear, from the anger building inside me. My mother had simply crossed the line. She had now openly challenged my boundaries. I sat on the couch that evening, the police check email still fresh in my inbox. Past years flashed before my eyes. How guilty she made me feel when asking for money, how she said family supports family when I hesitated. That was never love. That was control. I didn't yet know what her next move would be, but one thing was clear. If she had sent the police to intimidate me, there would be no stopping her now. The silence in the apartment no longer brought comfort. It was the calm before the storm, and I was no longer willing to wait. I woke up before dawn. The city was quiet, shrouded in fog. My phone lay face down on the table next to the police report. No word from my mother since that night. But this silence wasn't accidental. It was deliberate. I made coffee and opened my laptop. I pretended to be checking job listings, but my hand unconsciously went to my banking app. My chest tightened instantly. 2 new credit inquiries appeared, Capital One and Discover. Both were new. Both were unfamiliar. I had never applied for a credit card. I pulled up the report. 2 accounts had been opened in my name. The personal details were mine, my name, my social security number. But the address wasn't. It listed my parents' house in Greenwood Village. I stared at the screen, frozen. The debt was already in the thousands. The expense list was right there. Event venues, a DJ service, beauty salons. My mother's message echoed in my head. "We need $2,100 for your sister's 16th birthday." This wasn't a request for help. It was a premeditated plan. I called the number listed on the report. My voice shook, but I knew exactly what I was saying. I want to report identity theft. The woman on the other end checked the details and said, "This account was opened last month at the Greenwood Village branch. Co-applicant, Linda Hale." Everything seemed to stop. The noise disappeared. I couldn't even feel myself breathing. "We're logging this as a fraud case," she continued. "The paperwork will be sent today." I hung up. Everything was there in black and white. My mother's signature, her phone number, her address. She hadn't just used me. She had stepped into my identity. I opened my voice recorder. In this state, recording a call is legal. I dialed her number. After a few rings, she answered, "So, you're alive." "Mom," I said calmly, "I found the credit cards opened in my name. The address is your house. Do you have an explanation?" She laughed with that familiar fake sweetness. "I was helping you, building your credit history. What's the big deal about spending money on your sister's birthday? It's family money. What's yours is ours." "No," I said. "What's mine is mine, and law enforcement is already reviewing the rest." There was a long silence on the line. Then I heard her breathing quicken. "You wouldn't dare." I already did. I ended the call, saved the recording, named it Boundaries, May 17th. Morning light filtered into the room, clearly illuminating the diploma on the wall and the new lock on the door. Both were the result of my own work, and this time, I was the one protecting them. For the first time, the silence in the apartment gave me strength. This was no longer the calm before the storm. The storm had begun. And this time, the lightning wasn't striking me. I was directing it. I met them at a roadside diner, a public safe place. As always, they were late. My mother walked in first. She wore a floral dress and oversized sunglasses, hiding her face like a shield. My father followed behind, looking smaller, more exhausted than before. Clara was glued to her phone, fingers scrolling, never lifting her head once. "Linda," my mother said sharply as she slid into the seat across from me, "is this really why you called us here?" "Not for food," I replied. My own voice surprised me. It was very calm to talk. The waitress placed the coffees on the table and walked away without a word. I set a brown folder on the table and pushed it toward them. 2 credit cards were opened in my name, Capital One and Discover, both tied to your address, both used for my sister's 16th birthday. My mother's lips twitched slightly, a look that almost resembled a smile. "I did this for your own good," she said, "to build your credit history." "No," I said calmly, "you signed in my place." She waved her hand as if it didn't matter. "Don't exaggerate, it's a family matter. You always turn everything into a problem. Does everyone forget who paid for your education?" My laugh was sudden and harsh. People at nearby tables turned to look. "I paid," I said, "with every paycheck, every extra shift, and you spent what I saved for my future on Clara's sweet 16. Clara looked away, annoyed. "Here we go again." I looked at her. "That silver dress," I said, "the one you wore at your party? You bought it with my card, too." Clara averted her eyes. "Mom said it was fine." My mother immediately cut in, her voice sharp. "Enough. Don't talk to your sister like that. I didn't steal from you. I used it for the family." "You used my identity," I said. "You called the police because I changed the locks. You tried to make me look unstable so you wouldn't lose control. This ends here." For the first time, my father spoke, his voice weak, exhausted. "Honey, your mother made a mistake, but there's no need to blow this up. Let's handle it within the family." I pushed the folder a little closer. "It's too late. The bank knows everything. There's an official investigation underway." My mother's face suddenly went pale. "What have you done?" I reported it. As fraud. "The accounts are frozen. The bank has your signature, number, and address. They'll be contacting you soon." A heavy silence fell. Even the sounds of the diner seemed to fade. "You'll regret this," she whispered. "You're destroying the family over a misunderstanding." I stood up. "No, Mom. You destroyed the family because you saw me as a source of money." I set the coffee money on the table and walked out without looking back. Outside, the air hinted at rain. I sat in the car for a while without moving, checking myself in the rearview mirror. My hands were still shaking, but there was a strange lightness in my chest. It felt like something inside me had emptied, and that emptiness was ready to be filled with calm. That evening, Cherry Creek was aglow with lights. Purple and silver tones spread everywhere. My sister's extravagant Sweet 16 party. They hadn't invited me, but it didn't matter anymore. I already felt, deep in my heart, how it would end. At 8:45 p.m., my phone rang. An unfamiliar number appeared on the screen. I answered. "Miss Hale," a composed, calm female voice said, "This is Lauren Stein from the Capital One Legal Department for Greenwood Village. Your identity theft report has been escalated today. This evening, in coordination with local law enforcement, action is being taken to verify transactions conducted at the Cherry Creek events venue. Your presence there is not required. We're simply informing you." My throat went dry. "So, The police will go to the event? Yes, she said. This is standard procedure. The expenses will be documented on site. I thanked her and ended the call. I leaned back in my seat. Through the open window, distant music drifted in, the sound of a celebration already on the verge of collapse. About 40 minutes later, my phone vibrated again. Clara had texted, "Have you lost your mind? The police are here." The DJ stopped the music. Everyone's staring. Mom is freaking out. Another message followed. "Someone from the bank said your name. What kind of game is this?" I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, 2 police officers entered the brightly lit banquet hall. There was no commotion, just a quiet presence that changed everything. Behind them walked a bank representative holding a thick folder of documents. "Good evening," one of the officers said calmly. "We've received a report regarding credit card fraud connected to this event. The expenses were made using an account opened in the name of Linda Hale." Whispers spread across the room. Phones were raised. Cameras started recording. My mother froze beside the cake table. The color drained from her face. "There must be some mistake," she said, her voice trembling. The bank representative opened the folder and began reading. Primary account holder, Linda Hale. Co-signature, unauthorized. Transactions indicate use of a third party's identity. Muffled gasps echoed through the hall. Someone whispered, "Isn't that her daughter's name?" My mother tried to speak, but no sound came out. Clara stood frozen in the middle of the room, eyes filling with tears. "Mom, what did you do?" The officer's tone didn't change. "No one will be detained tonight. We only need to collect documentation for the bank's investigation. We'll be taking copies of receipts and identification." The silence that followed was heavy. Only camera flashes blinked on and off. Half the guests recorded everything. The others turned away, pretending nothing was happening. A little later, the DJ packed up the equipment. The decoration reading "Clara Sweet 16" sagged in the empty hall. People slowly dispersed, their expressions tinged with regret, the air heavy with silence. By the time my mother stepped outside, the rain had begun. Calm, steady, unbroken. I, meanwhile, stood by the window at home, watching the lightning strike across the city. I felt no joy. I didn't smile. I simply let the calm fill me. It was the sound of justice, not loud but unwavering. For years I had thought that staying silent was weakness. That night I realized, sometimes silence is victory. 3 days later, the skies cleared, but the traces remained. A letter arrived from Capital One. Fraud investigation complete. It was short and clear. Unauthorized use confirmed. $8,012 to be returned. No apology, no show, just the truth. Finally in writing. Word spread quickly. Whispers in stores, in church. "Did you hear? About that birthday party?" A short video from the event circulated online. Clara closed her accounts. My father received a warning at work for ignoring official letters sent to the office address. The remarkable thing? For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't respond to them, not out of anger, out of exhaustion. I was simply done explaining the obvious. I filled out the necessary forms, froze my credit, closed every account my mother had touched. In the end, I printed the confirmation letter and hung it on the wall, next to my diploma and the receipt for the new lock on the door. 3 pieces of paper, proof of effort, proof of self-protection, and freedom. 6 months had passed. Fall had arrived. Streets were adorned with golden leaves, and the air had turned crisp. I had started a new job at a clinic a short distance from my home. The commute was manageable. That day, I had left work a little early. I changed my clothes as soon as I got home and brewed a perfect cup of tea. Then I sat at my desk, sipping slowly, and let the events of the past months play out in my mind once more. Yes, I had done what needed to be done. I could finally breathe easily, and I would never forget any of it. Every time I entered my room, the first things my eyes fell upon were my diploma, my new employee badge, and the old lock I had replaced. Each of these was a hero in its own story. If you've ever had to set boundaries like this in your own story, remember, you are not alone. Share your experience in the comments and let us know where you're watching from so we can see how many people have walked this path.